I've been doing intermittent fasting for over 7 years, starting since high school. It's been pretty enjoyable and I've seen great improvements in everything I do, but there are still some things that I wish I knew sooner about intermittent fasting. So in this video, I'm gonna share these things with you. Number one, you want to get fat adapted. If you've never done any type of intermittent fasting before, then it may be quite difficult at first, especially if you're used to eating several small meals throughout the entire day. Me personally, I started off with 3 square meals a day, then I moved on to 2 meals a day, and now I'm on 1 meal a day usually. Your body carries thousands and thousands of calories with you all the time. It's not a problem of insufficient energy, but about not getting access to it. It's actually quite critical to get into ketosis as soon as possible when you are fasting, as to protect against muscle catabolism and maintain autophagy. That's why before going for any longer fasts, I make sure I eat low-carb keto before that.
Fact is it?
2. Pay attention to electrolytes. Electrolytes are vital for life and energy production. Most of the time people feel lethargic and exhausted not because they're fasting, but because they're deficient in minerals. The most important one is regular sodium, which you should get from quality sea salt or pink salt for more magnesium and other minerals. Regular water fasting, which just pure water, can be actually somewhat dangerous because you can end up flushing out some of your electrolytes. You should definitely drink water to stay hydrated, but don't overdo it. Number 3, no need to kill yourself with workouts. When you're fasting, then you are already experiencing higher muscle stress and you're more prone to catabolism. There isn't a lot of evidence to show that fasted training has significantly improved benefits. I personally think that you may burn a little bit of extra fat, but the response to resistance training would be somewhat similar. To trigger all the positive hormonal adaptations and fat burning benefits, you don't need to do an hour of weights, 30 minutes of HIIT, and an hour of cardio. You can already get most of the results having a maintenance type workout while fasting for longer. Number 4, too much autophagy isn't good. When you hear about autophagy from most people, then they're gonna say it's gonna cure cancer, boost stem cells, and make you live longer, which may be true to a certain extent, but they probably haven't done enough of their research. There are many negative side effects to autophagy overactivation, such as the proliferation of cancer cells, tumor metastasis, muscle loss, and insulin regulation problems. I've made 2 videos about it in the past, and some people still don't get it. You don't want to activate autophagy all the time because of many reasons. You want to cycle it with periods of fasting and feasting while getting enough anabolism and nutrients. Number 5, short but more frequent fasts are better than super long fasts. Some people, they have an all or nothing approach to fasting and everything else they do. They're going to binge and overeat, and then they're gonna fast for several days. This doesn't seem very sustainable, and it's definitely not optimal. If you were to fast for 10 days once a year and eat regularly the rest of the year, you're gonna end up with only 10 days of fasting. If you were to have a 3-day fast every quarter of the year, you'll end up with 12 days of fasting. If you were to have a 48-hour fast every week or 2, you'll end up with 30 to 50 days of fasting.
What?
It is probably true that to significantly activate autophagy, you need to fast for about 2 to 3 days. But you can't have those fasts that often. It's better to have more frequent fasts that are shorter to increase your basal autophagy, and then opt for a few of these longer fasts a few times a year. You're going to end up with more days of fasting, and it's going to increase your health a lot more than these super hard long fasts. Number 6, fasting for 16 and 8 isn't probably enough for autophagy. Beginner intermittent fasters usually start with 16 and 8 fasting because they want to gain all the benefits of autophagy and stem cells. After doing some research while doing the 16 and 8 method, I realized that it's probably not enough. It takes more time for your body to enter into fasted state, which means most people aren't fasting as long as they think they are. Before you enter into ketosis and autophagy, your body has to burn through its endogenous nutrients. Usually it'll take longer than 24 hours. Even if you do get into autophagy for a moment with working out on 16 and 8, you'll inhibit it right after breaking the fast. And it's generally better to eat less frequently, and most people would do fine with just 1 meal a day. When I first started fasting, I did the 16 and 8 method for about 4 years, and then I moved into OMAD, which I've been doing for 3 years because I think it's more effective, and it would be more effective as well for basal autophagy. Despite eating only once a day for the last 3 years, I've still built muscle and gotten stronger. Number 7, it's better to have some breaks from fasting. Although I like to eat only once a day and I would do it for the rest of my life, I still think it's better to have days where you're eating more frequently. There's definitely no reason to be eating 3 square meals a day with snacking, but sometimes you may want to increase the time gap during which you eat your food. From a circadian rhythm perspective, it's best to consume your food within only 10 hours or less. Personally, I think there's no need for any longer than 4 to 6 hours. The way I do it is I eat OMAD within 1 to 2 hours most days of the week. And maybe every week or two, I'm going to eat my food within 4 to 6 hours instead. And that's going to include probably like 2 meals. Number 8, you want to eat for nutrient density. If you're fasting hard and frequently, then you also have to make sure that you give your body the essential nutrients. Most people are already nutrient deficient, and fasting may simply make things worse. When you come off a 3-day fast, then the first thing you eat shouldn't be bok choy and kale. They're not going to nourish you and feed you.
Kale, yeah.
If you're doing intermittent fasting, whether that be OMAD or a 3-day fast, then those individual meals, they should be more nutrient dense because you have this very small time frame to get all of your nutrients. The most nutritious foods are organ meats, egg yolks, fatty fish, tubers, meat, vegetables, and nuts. You don't want to have a lot of processed food and empty calories. Number 9, being too tough isn't optimal. Fasting is a physiological stressor on a body that forces hormetic adaptation. As you become more fat adapted, fasting gets easy. If your metabolism ends up getting too tough and resilient, it's going to take more fasting to get the same effect. You're going to need a bigger hammer to hit the same nail. Fasting is going to make your body stronger and tougher, which is great for survival when you are in nature. However, it's not that sustainable for fat loss and longevity in the modern environment. The problem is also that if you want to get the same effects as you did when you first started fasting, you're going to have to end up with fasting really long, really hard all the time, which just isn't that sustainable. The goal should be to get more effects from less effort, which is why you want to change things up all the time. Number 10, not prioritizing training enough. It's still important to train hard to keep your body at its peak. Fasting is only a single component to health, and exercise is probably more critical. If your training begins to suffer because of fasting the wrong way or too often, then it's not worth it. Whenever I start to focus more on progressing in resistance training and exercise, then I see everything else in my health improve as well. If you're just fasting and not training, then you will never reach your potential with your health. The same applies to just training and not fasting.
Do it!
So these are the things that I wish I knew about intermittent fasting sooner. If you want to know how to optimize and balance both resistance training and intermittent fasting for health and performance, as well as avoid all the other potential mistakes of autophagy and fasting, then check out my book, Metabolic Autophagy. But other than that, thanks for watching this video. Make sure to click the like, subscribe, notification bell as well. My name is Seem. Stay optimized, stay empowered.
Do it!